Well, hello there. Good morning. It is Friday, January 9th, and I am that developer dad. And we're working on the big long list of silly little details that I need to get accomplished so that I can get the DMs familiar live and let people start paying me for it. So yesterday we kind of diverted from C# and .NET land into some graphic design stuff and a little bit of HTML and some CSS in the afternoon. And I left off, I wasn't quite done by the end of yesterday afternoon session. And I promised that I would review all of the things that I did. So, I guess without any further ado, I will flip over to the main screen. Boop. And we can see my big fancy button. I've got that little animated shimmer going back and forth across it periodically. If you look, it'll go in a moment. There we go. And I added some mouse over effects to it. So when I mouse over, some of the inner glow changes and the little SVG gets a outer glow. I used a drop shadow for that. We'll review all of these silly CSS tricks in a minute. And of course, when I click, we just darken the whole thing and I release the mouse and it comes back to normal. And while I was zipping around W3 schools or W3C schools yesterday, trying to find some particulars about various CSS syntax and stuff like that, I stumbled on the Google fonts because I wanted to gussy up the fonts a little bit, just using whatever's specified in the native style sheet for the browser and so on. It has been fine for now, but I kind of wanted something with a little bit more zip, so I've identified the 3 fonts that I want to use throughout the site. I think for headers and buttons and stuff like that, I'm going to use Almendra. For standard body text, I'm going to use Outfit. And for, commentary, like on the About page, the roadmap page, and so on and so forth, I'm going to use this font called Architect's Daughter. Now, to get these are all open source, free for anybody to use from Google. All you do in your CSS file is you add an import with the URL to the particular font you want to use. And I'm just going to take out the other fonts that I was experimenting with here. And then once you've imported them, you can specify those in the font family attribute in whatever CSS classes or element or tag specifications or IDs or whatever you want to use. So while I'm integrating this button, I'm also going to update the fonts throughout the application. So the big button, I started off using the SVG as the background, and I had given this div an ID. As you can see, it's ID townsfolk button. I'm going to leave that ID attribute there for now. I might take it out later if it turns out that I don't need it. Now, I'm going to get rid of this attribute here. And we still have the mouse over. So that's cool. We've got that. And I think I may have goofed something in my... Oh, that's right. I did do this for the shimmer. So I think what I'm going to do is... I'm going to add... Because Copilot suggested a class for the big button out there. And I like having this as like sort of a big card type thing, but my cats have decided to have a party. I think what I'm going to do is for clickable elements, I want to cursor, pointer, all right. And then I'm going to move the animation to here, all right. And then I'm going to change this big button class that I'm using for these pseudo selectors for hover and active and stuff like that. I'm going to change that to clickable. And I've got another one here that affects the brightness. And this one affects the hover. Cats, calm down. Jinkies. And it looks like I've got one more big button hover. Big button text. That works. Let's save this. I think I might need to reload the preview. All right, here we go. All right, the special effects are gone. So let's go through these changes that I've just made. So if you want to have a linear gradient anywhere in a CSS element, you have to specify that as a background image rather than a color, because a gradient is not a color, it's a series of colors, of course. And I had a bit of a time getting the variables to kind of get combined into these RGBA specifications because I wanted to use some transparency on them. So I had to actually grab the red, green, blue values there, and then I can specify the transparency. In fact, I can probably change this to var light here because it doesn't use it's fully opaque. So there's that. And what I did was what I had to do was I had to make the background image really, really big, and then push it outside of the scope of the actual or the visual viewport for the button. And of course, the fore color is light. That's that bright yellow that we have there. The font weight's 700. The border is that. And I think for big button, I want to make the font family Almendra. We're going to specify that for all buttons. So there's our display control. Here's our sizing. Here's where we get into the background image, stuff, color. Let's do that. Border, border radius, box shadow. I'm going to move padding up where this stuff goes, because that kind of controls the sizing and the box model. And then this border, I want to move this up underneath the padding. That's back. And we've got stacked box shadows. This is the outer one, like the sort of red blurry shadow around. And then the second one is the light. And I'm going to just cut this. And say var light. Save. And it looks like it kept it. Good. I want to use my color variables wherever I possibly can. Going to alternate ways of doing it, like the hex codes or the RGB values only where I must. Light. And I might have to tweak this CSS when we bring it into and I don't need to use RGBA here either. I can just use the var light. Okay, let's save all this. We still haven't brought back our stuff yet. Now, what I did here was I basically just I reorganized the attributes that I'm assigning inside the big button class so that all of the box model type stuff is first, like this. These first few elements define our flow, sets it up as a flex box, says we want to justify our content to the bottom. The flex direction is column, and we want the actual items centered on the vertical axis. And we set up the sizing and the spacing and stuff like that. Here's our border specifications. And this is where we set up the background. And then finally, the typography and the text color and stuff like that. Cool. Now we set up this clickable and we move some things around. So let's apply that clickable class to the big button. And we see our shimmers back and all of our mouse over and click events. Super handy. Let's review those real quick. And then we're going to start bringing them into the actual Blazor application. So we've got our cursor, it's a pointer. You see my cursor turned into a little hand there. It's an arrow, it's a hand. We got our animation back. Now clickable : hover, this is a pseudo selector, which means when the pointer is hovering over the element, apply these style overrides. And all we're doing is we're changing the box shadow on these. So we're making the outer shadow, we're making it blur a little bigger. Actually, the outer box shadow is exactly the same, but the inner box shadow is getting getting tighter. But the border itself is getting wider. Now, I'm using rems everywhere else, so for consistency's sake, so 10 pixels, that is roughly 16 divided by 3. It's a little bit less than 60%, so I'm going to say 0.6 rem. And 2 pixels, that is 0.125 rem. Save. All right. And rem is relative EM, and relative EM means these values are calculated from the font size that's set at the HTML tag level. So if we, at either the root or the HTML level. So here's my font size. I don't want to use Almendra here. I'm going to change. I'm going to swap that. I'm going to move font family to here. There we go. We only want the fancy fonts in specific places. So we're going to set that font family to everything uses outfit unless I say otherwise. And the font size is 1.1 rem. You know what? I'm going to take this because there it is normally, and that's a little bit small. And I feel like on a mobile app, that's going to be painfully small. Yeah, I got to specify that at the paragraph level. Font sizes should be specified at the specific element level. All right, let's get back into what we were talking about. So clickable, cursor pointer, it's got the shimmer, clickable hover. I've got some other hovers. I'm going to move this. And what we're doing here so we've got clickable hover, and that affects the box shadow of the whole div. Clickable hover IMG, what this says is on any element that's been given the class clickable, when we are hovering, if there is an image, we apply a drop shadow. And this is actually an outer glow because I'm using a light. If I change this to accent dark, that should, yeah, that turns into a shadow. But I like it light. But if it's casting light, it should lighten the colors around it. I quite like that. I like that more. Yeah. So there's accent light. That's light. It's a very subtle difference. But I feel like accent light looks more like the image is casting light on the background because you can still see some of the red through it. And I'm applying a brightness filter of 0.9, which just darkens it up a little bit. It's barely perceptible. Like I'll change this to a 0.5 and you'll be able to really see. But that's too dramatic. And I tried a 1.1 to brighten it. And that ain't bad. Let's do something more dramatic and we'll see it all wash out. And yeah, no, I don't like that at all. But I do like that 1.1. So yeah, we're going to leave the brightness filter at 1.1. And that just lets everything pop a little bit more. Now, clickable active, we're going to change our box shadows a little bit. Just make the outer one or the inner one about the same. I do want to tighten it up a bit. Yeah. And the outer one, we're just going to contract it a little bit to give it that feel like we're pressing the button, right? So pressed, not pressed. And we're darkening things up to make it look like it's shadowing a little bit as we push it down away from our light source. And not only are we applying that to the div itself, but this clickable active star says apply the brightness filter to everything inside the button. So we're also going to darken our image and the text. Just like that. It's subtle, but I think it's a nice little effect. And I'm going to make that the same level of dim. There we go. Nice and subtle. And of course, here's the keyframes for the shimmer at 0% of the animation. These percentages refer to the percentage of the animation time span. Now, I've set the animation time to be 10 seconds, and we do that by specifying animation, shimmer, 10 seconds, run it forever, and we want to ease in and out. And what ease in out does is it goes a little bit faster at the start and then slows down towards the end of the period. So at 0%, our background position is negative 450 pixels to on the x-axis. So it's way the heck off to the left of the left edge of the button. At 15%, it's still 450. And you have to add these stops at the percentage time of for where you want it to actually start moving. If I take this out, it actually begins creeping across the button right at the start. So I'll just temporarily remove this, and you'll see what I mean. And that's not really what I wanted to have happen. So I messed around and tweaked with this stuff for a little while yesterday afternoon, because I wanted to just wait a second and then bounce across and then bounce right back. And I think I want that to go, well, I wanted it to go a little faster, but if I reduce this too much, it gets jaggy on the way back. Like you get some after image or some trails. And I didn't like the way that looked. It lost some smoothness. So at, a half a second is about as fast as I want it to traverse, or to take to traverse the 200 pixels across. And then, of course, at 100, between 30 and 100, it needs to stay 450 pixels to the left. To the left. I keep forgetting that my camera is backwards. And that's that. And then, of course, we've got big button text. Font size is 2 rem. I'm going to move this up underneath here. And you know what? I think there's not really any need to define that big button text. So I'm going to take this out. There we go. And I've just got that wrapped in a span class just so that it's not sitting there naked. Because divs should not contain text content all by themselves. I'm sure we can remove this. And it'd be fine. But that bugs me a little bit. It's a little bit not fantastic. And of course, this div, the style cop is complaining at me that CSS inline style should not be used, blah, 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 whatever. This is just literally a scratch pad. And I don't need these breakpoints because I'm not dicking around with JavaScript at this point. There we go. So let's integrate this into the application. I'm going to pull this off to my other monitor. Whoop, off it goes. And that, I can close this one. I don't need that workspace open. And let's run the app. Excuse me. It's going to take a sec. I haven't run on my PC in a while. And here we go. So here's, hello there, builder. Sleepy Kitty is sleepy. I guess we better sign in. And I'll I'll sign in. And this is just sort of what the mobile view looks like. And there we go. What can I help you create today? So I'm going to pull this over here. Pull this over here. All right. And I don't want get changes. I want my solution exploder. Where are you, Solution Explorer? View, Solution Explorer, here it is. I'm going to pin that for just a second. Pull it over this way. I need styles.css. And I'm going to come out to home.razor. And instead of Blinky Kitty, I am going to grab this. Actually, I'm just going to grab this whole shebang. And we're going to get rid of Blinky Kitty. Sorry, Blinky Kitty. Div ID equals home page nav. We're going to have to define a style for that in a few minutes. I'm just going to drop that in here. And I'm going to pop those in. And I'm missing a close div. I think. Okay, so we've got div ID homepage. Oh, no. I got one too many closed divs. Of course, I'm back on the Windows, so. Oh, come on. So all of my hotkeys, I'm using Mac hotkeys, and my brain is broken. So we've got assets. It's not assets. It is, oh gosh, how do we get town folks silhouettes? Let's try images. Yeah. Images slash townsfolk min. And then alt equals, and I'm going to hide that for now. Townsfolk silhouettes. Save that. Townsfolk min SVG, come on. Inspect, where's the darn image come from? You do not help me at all. Go away. Let's open up the Solution Explorer and see. I bet app razor base href style sheet is styles.css blah 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 and grel icon image slash png href equals favicon.icon. I bet it does not want the tilde slash. There it is. So there's that. So we've got our itty bitty little townsfolk. No stuff there. So let's bring in our font imports. Oh, come on. Save. So we're not there yet. And let's say font family will be outfit sans serif. Save. Things are starting to happen. Body, footer, header. On our headers, font family, we are going to use, what's it called? Almendra. And a serif font for those. Save that. Ooh, that's starting to get pretty. Justify items is center. What's well hello there builder? Okay, that's in heading. I need to change that to H3. Save that. Styles, header main, feature host header, font family. We're going to use Almendra. And a serif. There we go. Feature host main, centered content, feature host footer, task host header. Let's set the font family. To Almendra. And serif. Task host main, task host footer nav button. I think I've got some things for buttons. Let's see. Oh, it looks like all of my buttons have already changed to use Almendra, which is pretty cool. Let's go to NPCs and see what it looks like over here. All right, these are not using. So, font family, Almendra, serif, save. There we go. Very good. Let's take a look at Elias. Cool. Oh, this is already starting to shape up. I'm already really liking the look of this. Quite a lot. How's it look on a big screen? Oh, that's all right. Back to list, new NPC, view. Yeah, that's all right. I'm gonna have to take a look at how that looks on a phone. I may not keep that because at very, very small rendering, it's starting to lose some legibility, and I don't want to have to bump my font sizes too much anyway. Font size. Let's take it to 1.1 rem on buttons. That's significantly better. Whoops, grabbed the wrong window. Yes.
You could put the text outside of the box. You could put the square and put the text under it. It's pretty common UI thing.
Yeah, I hate that. All right, so that's good. Radio button list. I'm not worried about any of that stuff. All right, we got to start bringing in. Let's go back to the home page. Let's take a look at about. Yeah, I'll fix the typography on that stuff in a bit. So, body, footer, app host, blah, 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 blah. This is all layout. I need to spin down here, shown, hidden, form group, form label, button. Let's start defining some classes. So let's grab big button. Drop that in there. Save. All right, so cool. Big button. Now we lost our border. Because I don't have those colors defined exactly the same way in here. So let's go up to www.root, which is where Blazor and ASP.NET apps define static stuff. Layer 1, layer lighten, layer darken, outline color, HR. I feel like it's probably in base bars. App height, font set, font base size, font weight light, blah, blah, blah. Opaque, translucent, color white, black, light yellow, accent red, accent light, accent dark, color brand name. There's that bright blue. And I think I'm going to take the definition for color accent red. And overwrite color brand main. Save. All right, so color light yellow. Come out to styles. So color light yellow. Save. All right, we've got that light yellow border around our thing now. So I'm going to grab this value. Paste it here. And color brand main. Or color accent red. Okay, so we've got our shadows better defined now. Color accent red. We need a dash. And I'm just gonna copy, paste, copy, paste. Save that. Very good. I'll grab color light yellow. Paste it there. And save. Cool. Now I need to add these other classes. And I need to grab the keyframes for shimmer. So I'll Control C those. Control V this here. Save that. There's shimmer. Ah, yes, I have to fix up the color specs. Cool. And clickable hover. Color accent red. Color light yellow. Gotta save. Color accent red. Color light yellow. Brightness, all that stuff. And clickable hover. I feel like something's going awry. Oh yeah, I'm totally losing my box shadows here. Something is going incorrectly on clickable active. Okay, so the brightness filter is applying. But we're totally losing that box shadow, and something ain't right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this stuff, copy that, paste it down here, and then, oh gosh, I'm not in Visual Studio Code, so the toggle block comment isn't available to me. There, we're just going to comment that out. Nope. Stop. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, because we know that's working. I'm going to paste that right over the top here. We'll save. Okay, so we're not losing anything there. Good. So I'm going to take the outer one, and we're going to go to 0.4 rem. And the inset is going to 0.3 and 0.3. We're going to make it just slightly bigger. Save. There we go. We've got our clickies. Fantastic. So we can get rid of this comment. I don't know what character was missing in here that it didn't like. It looks legit, but it apparently was not all the way correct. Now, one more thing before we hook up the other thing, or hook up the hyperreference. Okay, so that's pulse. Blinky kitty, blah, 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 blah. I need to grab, I'm going to come over to styles because I don't like having my keyframes defined in here. I'm just going to drop those into the clipboard. And we're going to define those there. Now, got Sleepy Kitty before, pulse. Let's come down here and grab Blinky Kitty. Because the Blinky Kitty ID definition needs to be up here with the other ID definitions. I like to have some form of organization in my CSS files. All right, now I'm going to restart. So I'm going to close that, remax this, and let's just run it. I want to make sure I didn't screw anything up horribly with all that CSS stuff. Whoops. Save, and I can close VS Code. Well, I'm going to leave it open for now. All right, Sleepy Kitty is sleepy. Let's sign in. I like that font. I'm going to get into Entra and try and change that color to my brand color. Oh, yeah. That's sexy. Now, that doesn't do anything yet because we haven't added the hyperreference. But I also need to come in here and style these, this text in here and in here. But we'll get to that. First things first, let's add the destination for what happens when we click on this. So close, 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 home, and all we're going to do, surround the whole bloody div. Oh, come on, Rob. Stop it. Surround the whole div with ahref equals I'll go get the href address in a second. Oh, what even are you doing? Cut that. Paste it here. Bump you in. I'm not going to bother with binding a click event to the div and assigning a thing and blah, 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 because that's silly. Now I need to save, and I got to come out to, I believe it's going to be in nav menu, and that'll be in our components. And probably in the partials. Nope. It'll be in layout. Nav menu. href is /create NPC. Okay, so I bet it's going to be /create NPC. Save. Restart the app. It's going to want us to log back in because it will have dumped the auth token. That's fine. We'll sign in. Oh, oh yes. Cool. Let's go home. Go back to our castle. Click it again. Oh, I love that. That's a much nicer user experience, if I do say so myself. So sign out. We've just come into the app for the first time today. Sleepy Kitty is sleepy. Sign in. Go to our Townsfolk creator. And that is going to be such a better experience on a phone where I'll sign in, I'll push the button to sign in, they'll let me in, and then I just push the big honking button. That's so much nicer. And as you can see, at 9 of 12's strong encouragement, I was going to say insistence, but that's the wrong word. Under strong encouragement from 9 of 12, I've swapped out the color palette from the blues and all of that stuff to this more. It looks more like a D&D palette, and she was absolutely right, as she almost always is in these types of things. Although I do disagree about making the button a square and putting the text underneath it. Bah, I don't like that. What I may do is change the color on those buttons. It's almost time to end the stream, but my ADD is showing. Let's pop that down. Come on, give me a thing to grab. Here we go. Where have I got the button background color defined? I feel like if I go from the dark to the bright red, it might pop a little better. Let's take a look at styles. And I think I've got some stuff. Here's task host, button, color light yellow, okay. Here's big button. I didn't define that on the create NPC. Did I? That'd be very, very silly of me. Let's start with actions, button. Nope. Maybe it's in colors, which would make sense. And I should probably move all of the color stuff. Here we go, background color. What if I change that to accent red? Mm, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, this is kind of jacked up too. I'm gonna have to tweak this stuff. I guess it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. And we should probably test to make sure everything's still okay. We've got a halfling they. They're a cook. Started off life as a folk hero. Bramble Greenbrier. Boogity boogity boo. All right. Yeah, I can get down with this stuff. Yeah, not bad at all. All right. We have had a productive stream. We've made some pretty serious improvements to the look of the application. I'm really happy with this. Um, there's a reason I wrapped this stuff in a div called homepage nav. As I add new features and new generators and stuff like that, I'll be adding other buttons in here to and what we'll do is we'll just add them inside here, and on a big screen, whoops, grab the wrong window like I do. So on a full size screen, I want them to go across. I want them to create a row and then or create columns, and then we'll create rows. And of course, on a mobile, we'll just scroll down as we add stuff. And yeah, this is starting to shape up quite a bit. There's a couple more pages I need to add. I need to add the privacy policy, terms and conditions, stuff like that in here. I've got those mostly over on the main homepage. I should probably update the homepage to use these same fonts. And yeah, so I've got things to do, but we're getting closer. And this afternoon, I actually want to record some demos of this app in action. So the first part of this afternoon is going to be me walking through the application, perhaps in both the desktop mode and in a mobile mode. I can actually push this little button here on my oh, you can't see it in the screen share, but I can actually remote into my iPhone from my desktop and control it as if it's in my hand. So I can do a screen capture and capture a QuickTime movie of it. And then I'll do editing and stuff like that over in iMovie or something, and get those demo videos submitted to Lemon Squeezy so that they can hurry up and approve my shop so I can start accepting money for this thing. And then once all of the admin businessy crap is done, I can get back to making features. And I've got a bunch that I want to make. So until this afternoon, um, have yourselves a good rest of your morning. I am that developer dad. We are developing, and I'm getting pretty excited about this. This is starting to look really, really nice. So yeah, happy coding. Take care, everybody.